We are back. It's Jesse Rowe with Inside Fighting. This is fight season. We are joined by a great guest. We are joined by UFC heavyweight Mario Pinto, coming off of a huge knockout win over Austen Lane at UFC Vegas 103. Mario, thank you for joining me, man. How are you?
My pleasure, man. I'm doing well. I'm feeling good. It's a nice Saturday evening.
Yeah.
Probably morning for you right now, but I'm feeling content, well rested.
Yeah, I know we had a little bit of issues with figuring out the time difference between the two of
Yeah,
us. I'm here. I'm here in Los Angeles. You're over in the UK.
yeah.
We got some UK weather though. It's been raining all week, so maybe it's we.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So we got a little bit in common right now. So you made your UFC debut, obviously coming off of the Contender Series. Just like, what are the emotions like right now? How you feeling? Just are you still riding the buzz? Have you come back down to earth? How you feeling about everything?
Uh, to be honest, I don't have a buzz. I'm a bit indifferent to it. Like, I think for me, it settles in later. It was the same for Contenders. It took a bit of time for me to settle in and actually realize, oh, I just fought in America. I just fought on the Dana White show and now fighting in the UFC. So it takes some time for me to process it all.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that you it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that because I have seen some quotes of yours that seem very grounded. You definitely
Yeah.
have like a long-term approach to MMA. You're not expecting anything right away. But I remember during the fight, your coach Austin gave you a pretty honest speech in between rounds, just in terms of how that fight played out, in terms of that speech. Do you feel like that speech sort of like gave you the motivation that you needed to finish the fight, or were you sort of in the right mindset regardless?
I think I was in the right mindset regardless, but the speech definitely like it was just a bit of a wake up call, and it was just like you have to understand we're in a kind of a different place right now. Like it's not the same show where like before where I was fighting in the other promotion, I was the champ, so I had 5 rounds to figure things out. Like he was just reminding me like, look, we got to go now, and then just go out and get your respect. And I had to get my own respect for myself. So I had to just bring the fight and remember it is just a fight, and just go out there and show what I can do. Because I
Yeah.
was just waiting a bit too much. I feel like he could see I was a bit too like locked within myself. So he has to just tell me, look, we have to just go out and get the fight. And I think the adjustment he made well was he didn't shout at me, which I feel like a lot of coaches don't understand. If you just shout at your student, sometimes you just lock out. And like you just like because you almost take offense to it, you're like, oh, you kind of blur it, and then you feel like you're on your own.
Right.
But his change in his tone was very important for me, and it helped me just like relax and say, it is just a fight. So I'm gonna just go out there. My goal wasn't to try and knock him out. It was to just go put some pressure on him, but it's heavyweights.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I called your coach Austin. His name is Stuart
Yeah,
Austin, right?
too Austin,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry about that. So just in terms of like how that first round went, because I know that obviously it seems like Austin Lane won the first round.
yeah.
Just was that something that you kind of like needed almost to just sort of get your bearings in the UFC to sort of like let you know, okay, I'm in the big leagues now. I kind of needed this as like a little bit of a wake up call. Do you feel like that's probably the case?
I don't like. I'm not too fussed about. People always say, "Oh, you're losing the first round." I don't care if I lose if I'm losing in the third round. As long as I get the W in the last 10 seconds,
Right.
that's all I care about. I fight to win. That's my style. I'm a winner.
Yeah.
So I don't focus too much on this round, that round. Like he's an aggressive guy. He's a big guy. He came forward. His team has a good game plan. He was super aggressive. I probably waited too long, and I was shelling up a bit too much. So in terms of damage, like I don't want to make that mistake again because I don't want to take too much damage. And he exploited that. He got me with a good right hand.
Right.
So like that's when I was like, oh, okay, I got to start getting some respect, or these guys are gonna just try to go at me and just like throw hammers at me.
Right. Well, it was either way. It was an awesome finish. You got the
Yeah.
bonus. How was that? What did you do to celebrate when you got the bonus and everything?
No, we didn't. We just went out, ate some food, and then I literally had a flight early next morning, so I
That's
couldn't really do much.
Dude, that's the worst. Getting that early morning
It,
flight out
uh,
of
it
Vegas.
is. It was my fault. I didn't realize, so I didn't check the connecting flight.
Yeah.
So I only saw the time for the connecting flight. I said, oh, 4 p.m. So we've got plenty of time. And then I rechecked it just in case, and I saw our flight was at like 8:30. Oh, it was just like it was horrible. We couldn't even stay out. It was the worst thing. And you don't want to fly that early, like after, and you got adrenaline, so you're not gonna sleep.
Right.
It was awful. So I know for next time.
No, I've done that before, getting the early flight out of Vegas. It's the biggest
Oh,
mistake I've ever made.
never
Um,
again.
yeah, exactly. So you're undefeated. You're 1-0 in the UFC now, obviously.
Yeah.
Just what are we, do you have an opponent in mind next? Have you gone that far ahead?
Well, I was just trying to look. We're climbing up seeing what the rankings are. Like not the top 15,
Yeah,
obviously, but like seeing who's there. I've seen like there's fighters like Dontel Mays, and the Tafa. Justin Tafa is an option, but we're
yeah.
seeing. I know he just come off a bad loss, so we got to see what's uh what's in line for that. But right now, I just want to see what I need to work on at this level. If that makes sense. Sorry, I don't know if it froze for a bit.
Yeah, it did for 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear what? Do you want me to repeat it or?
No, 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 you're good.
Yeah,
I heard you say Justin Tafa. That's a good name. I'd be
yeah,
interested in that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
You're
Dangerous guy, man. He did worse to Austin than I did. So
yeah, I know. That's a good matchup. Two guys that beat Austin. That's
yeah,
good matchmaking right there. I'm into that. Um, I wanted to sort of shift gears a little bit here because I was doing a little research on you last night. I saw that you have a degree in sports and exercise science. Just
yeah.
curious how long that took you to get.
3 years.
3 years. Where did you go?
Yeah, yeah. I went to University of Hertfordshire.
Okay, and is that like what is it that you would do if MMA didn't work out, let's say. Obviously
Right.
that's not the goal, but if MMA didn't work out, what would you have used that degree for?
I would have gone back, done another degree in film.
No kidding.
Yeah, man, I'm really into film. I wish had I not done like sports, I would have definitely gone into film and like understanding like media as well and the acting industry, theatre industry. I'm really into it. My sister did a bit of that, so that I kind of I grew it grew on me. So I wanted to work in those fields. Not saying I can't,
Right.
but definitely would have done that.
Yeah. What aspect of film? What were you into? Like cinematography? Were you into production? What?
Cinematography, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Do do
Acting.
you do you do photography on the side?
No, 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 no.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I was a film student before I dropped out of
Oh,
college. I
nice,
was
man.
Yeah, yeah. So I was really into that. Well, hey, MMA, it seems like it's going to work out. So once you're in the big time, you can always just,
I
you know,
mean, hopefully, I know Tarantino was thinking about making his last movie, so I don't know if he can get me on that. I don't even want the big roles. I just want to be an extra in the corner. I feel like the mistake is when people go from one big field to another, they try to get a big role. The expectations are
right.
too big. So,
Oh, dude, I love that. You could play like a bad guy in a fight scene or something like that.
yeah,
That'd be
literally,
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll definitely be down for that.
All right. Well, let's hope he sees this because that would be awesome. Um, so I'm curious, how did you this is a question I have. I also saw that you were a bouncer and a security guard at one point.
Yeah.
Do you have any good stories about having to use MMA on the job out of curiosity?
Not really. I've
Yeah.
been quite fortunate. I didn't have a lot of. There was only one time I was working at a club in Holborn. I was there for a while, and someone sucker punched me from behind. So I was trying to stop a fight that he was in. So I was trying to help him,
Right.
and then I stupidly I got in the middle between them, and as I had my back turned, he threw a big haymaker, and his iPhone hit my nose. And you know how on the bottom of the iPhone it's got the pattern for your charging socket.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that pattern was actually on my nose. That's how hard he hit me.
Oh, he left an
Like,
imprint.
yeah, it left an imprint, like a scar, like when it was healing. And then I just turned around and I went red, and I just went right, left.
Nice. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm guessing
yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably the last time the guy messed with a bouncer ever again, I'm guessing. But who
yeah.
knows,
For
maybe.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't remember. Like, he was a bit. He went out quite bad, and
Yeah.
obviously it's not something I'm proud of. But it was. I just saw red, like especially because he sucker punched me, and then.
Was that when were you doing MMA training at the time when that happened?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I started MMA training. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing you also like when you're on those jobs, you kind of feel like you have to like hold back a little bit too because
Oh yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
because
Yeah, for sure. I was within reason though because he sucker punched me, and like
no,
that sucker punches can kill people. So,
right.
but then that kind of taught me like, especially for what I was getting paid, man. I think I was getting paid like 9.50 an hour. in pounds, and I was just like, this is not worth it at all. Like,
Right.
I just still work the job because the job is very easy because it's flexible and it gives you time to train and to, you can. It's 0 hour contract, so I can
Right.
work basically when I want to. I just tell them my hours and shifts.
Gotcha.
So,
Well,
yeah,
glad you don't have to do that again.
yeah.
How,
And
how
I
did
was
you? Good.
so I was also a security guard for a homeless shelter.
Okay.
So I was working there. Those hours were longer. I was doing like 12-hour shifts. That was a hard job.
Yeah, that is long hours. How did you get into MMA out of curiosity?
Well, I went to my first gym at 14. I went to an
Yeah.
MMA gym. I was boxing before though.
Right.
Boxing in the gym in Caledonian. And I just watched it. I was watching a lot of Showtime, a lot of not Showtime, Strikeforce. I was watching a lot of Strikeforce and I was like, oh, I want to go to an MMA gym. And I went to it and I hated it. I hated the class. I hated the environment. They weren't very friendly. They all like the coach had a bit of an ego, about a bit of chip on his shoulder. So I was just like, oh yeah, this might not be for me. But deep down, I probably knew like it was just the gym I was at. And then I went and focused more on basketball. And then probably around 17, 18, I decided to go back and I just literally Googled MMA gym and went to the first gym I saw, which was in Vauxhall,
Right.
Urban Warriors Academy. And that's the first gym I went and it started from there.
Yeah, I saw that you were a big Strikeforce fan as a kid. Who was your favorite fighter? Was it like a Nick Diaz? Was it
Yeah, probably Diaz. I was watching a lot of, I think it was Frank Shamrock.
yeah.
Probably one of the first fighters I watched.
Yeah, I
I
saw
enjoyed watching Fado on there as well, Alistair, those guys.
yeah,
Luke
yeah, yeah.
Rockhold.
No, they had such an incredible roster. That's when UFC acquired. They just like that was like one of the big star bursts of the UFC is when the UFC got all those Strikeforce fighters. That was such a huge deal.
Even
Um,
like yeah,
yeah.
even
So
watching DC on there.
right, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I was curious because I saw, Nick Diaz has a quote. He said, "In order to love fighting, you have to hate it. You got to love it so bad that you push yourself to where you simply hate it." Is that
Yeah.
is that something that you would agree with? Do you find yourself when you're in like the training of MMA that you obviously love your job, but like you have to put yourself in those positions to sort of be uncomfortable, otherwise you're not doing it right?
Oh yeah, of course. Like MMA is such a love-hate relationship for me. Like
Yeah,
everyone like after a fight, it's probably the last thing I want to talk about.
right.
Like in terms of talking it with just people who don't understand the sport. Like if I'm talking to people that understand, then it's fine. Like because you guys understand what we go through, and you're not just saying, oh, you do UFC, like the whole casual. But yeah, you have to love it because there's many days I don't love it, and I think those days it's the cliche, it's the most important. It's the days that like for example I got hurt in my fight and you have to persevere, and you have to train on days you don't want to train. Unfortunately, some days you have to train on your sick days, even though you don't want to overtrain, because there's so many variables in fighting that can happen that you can't really control.
Yeah,
Like you can have a perfect camp, and then 2 days before your fight, you feel like you're getting the flu, and then you got the flu, and you can't really control. Like you're gonna have to fight. If you don't fight, unfortunately, this sport is it's like it's so unforgiving. Like no one really cares about your flu.
right.
No one like you can say you were sick, no one cares. You go down to the bottom of the list now. You're not a priority, and you have to. That's why you have to respect all these fighters, like what we go through. You have to just get through. I fought probably twice being sick in my career, and it wasn't nice, but I got through it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and the fans, I mean, if you look at the comment section on any
Yeah,
post of it, you're just the fans aren't gonna give you any sympathy for
yeah.
being sick, unfortunately, which they probably should. Um,
One thing I learned with the fans and stuff and like fighting, it's like I think fighting is like a wedding. No matter how good your wedding is, people are still gonna find something to hate.
yeah,
You spend 200K on a wedding, and someone be like, "Oh, I don't like the venue. Oh, this cake is too sweet. Oh, look at his suit." People even when you win, people are gonna hate. When you lose, people are gonna hate more. So you know what I mean. It comes with the job. It's part of the business.
yeah. I've never heard anybody compare MMA to a wedding before, but as somebody who's had a wedding, I can tell you
Yeah,
that that's 100% true because my wife and I had a beautiful wedding. We still find
yeah,
things that we get annoyed about to this day.
yeah.
Um, So, just curious, the thoughts of your division right now. It seems like Jon Jones was hoping for that Alex Pereira fight, probably not
Yeah,
happening now.
yeah.
Just curious about like where the status of it. Tom Aspinall, he's over there in the UK. Do you think that that fight's going to happen, or do you think John is actually ducking Jon Jones as some? I'm
That's
sorry,
a
John is actually ducking Tom Aspinall, as a lot of the fans
that's
seem to believe.
yeah. It's a tough one. I don't whether he's ducking or not. I don't think he's ducking, but I don't think again. It's true what he says. There's no real benefit of him fighting Tom Aspinall. If he beats Tom, it's just another title defense, and if he loses to Tom, it can. I wouldn't say it tarnishes his legacy. Like he's got nothing more to prove. He's fought three generations of fighters. The guy's a legend in the game. He's done what he's needed to do. So I'm sure he's going through negotiations. But Jones is smart. He's waiting. He's probably waiting out and letting Aspinall. I don't know. He's not waiting that long, but he's just letting Aspinall like. He probably wants Aspinall to fight. He wants to fight Aspinall when Aspinall doesn't want to fight him anymore.
Right.
And he's probably playing mind games. And like at that stage of your career, like why should I fight this young, hungry lion who can do some real damage? But the
Yeah.
annoying thing I understand for Aspinall, he's like he gets all that, but he's like, I want the belt. I want to be the champion. I want to set up my life and my career. So I can understand the frustration in that. So like, I think they should just set up the super fight with him and Alex. Let them both get paid and let the division move on.
Even after losing to Ankalaev, you think that
Yeah,
it's
like people like Ankalaev is a monster. I think Jones knew about Ankalaev. Like Jones was like, yeah, I don't. That's a guy I don't want to fight. He's well rounded. I saw him in the PI. Like he's got an aura about him. So they're gonna have the rematch. He could still win in the rematch. It was a
that's
bit of a
true.
close fight. So he can always come back. I feel like people have to say these things on Twitter just to say, "Oh, I was excited to fight you," and now like he can always come back.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And that's true. He could win the rematch and then this conversation's moot anyway. Um,
Exactly.
you actually had an interesting quote where you're talking about that you feel like there's like a new breed of heavyweights coming, that this like
Yeah.
hybrid heavyweight, like you and Aspinall,
Yeah.
more like athletic heavyweight, I guess is like one way of putting it. Do you
Yeah.
feel like what do you feel like it is that's sort of like creating this new breed of fighter, especially in your division?
I think there's a lot of 205ers now. People who thought they were 205ers and realized heavyweight's actually a safer and better, well, not safer, but it's a better division to perform at.
Okay.
Because I used to be a 205er in my amateur days, and like I was much younger then, and I was just as I was getting older and fighting more, I was just filling out and getting bigger. And I know I'm not the biggest heavyweight, but like there's so many heavyweights that have been champions that haven't been the biggest, like Cain Velasquez, Stipe Miocic, Jon Jones.
Right.
Not everyone's a super big like Ngannou. And I feel like you just perform a lot better, your chin's a lot better. And I feel like some of these light heavyweights are really realizing that. So that's why they're moving up. And
That
that's this new breed of heavyweights. It's not like just a double jab overhand, even though those guys are still super dangerous.
Yeah. No, that makes
So
sense
like,
because I mean, they especially like there's like a stigma around heavyweight that it's like the division where it's like the worst MMA is taking place at heavyweight
yeah,
just because they're bigger guys that are
yeah,
slower, and
yeah,
they say that like the highest skill level divisions are like the bantamweights, featherweights,
yeah,
lightweights, things like that. So it kind of makes sense that if you're coming from a lower division, you would actually bring maybe like more tools to a heavier
yeah.
division that it's not used to, is kind of what you're saying.
100%. And I feel
Yeah.
like you got Cyril Gahn as well, who's like his movement is just amazing. Like you don't see that,
Right.
especially from someone who's so big, but he moves so well. But he played basketball, football, like a multi-skilled athlete. But to that, because I've heard a lot of lighter guys say, "Oh yeah, you guys, I'm not gonna mention names, but someone said to me, your division." He's like, "I hate heavyweights because you guys get paid more, allegedly. People want to watch you more, but you have the lowest skill set." And I feel like with heavyweights, first of all, heavyweights they break the rules because of their size. Like they break the rules sometimes of technique, especially using technique on them. And the problem is everyone has power at heavyweight.
Right. Yeah.
Any shot, even a jab, can take you out. That's why they say, "Oh, look at the volumes of these featherweights or these bantamweights. Like, there's so many punches. Like, when you get hit by a heavyweight, it's not the same. Like, a punch can literally change your life.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's what people don't understand. Like, there's a give and a take. Yeah, heavyweights, we got power, but everyone's got power. And like, you see guys get put to sleep, they get put out.
Right.
Even punches that you block, like I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I got hit by a truck, you know?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, and I like the way you put that because I think that heavyweight gets like that bad stigma around it. So I think that that's a good way of putting it. And also, something that something that I did want to get to is you mentioned, and I only have a few more for you. Thank you for your time. I
No,
appreciate
no
it.
worries, of course, man. My
But
pleasure.
yeah, you said that you want to be one of the greats, and
Yeah.
that's what you've set out for. And I just like by talking to you, like you're well spoken. I think that like you're camera ready and all that stuff. How long until you think that like you're in the title picture and that you can become one of the bigger stars in the UFC?
I definitely say 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years, and I'm going to be able to cement my legacy, cement my name, and be one of the best heavyweights.
Yeah, because the UFC kind of there's a perceived problem with the UFC right now that it has like a quote unquote star problem. Do you agree with
Yeah,
that? Do you agree that the UFC is having issues with like creating stars? Because if you look at some of the divisions right now, this is not a knock on the guys, but you got guys
yeah,
like Bilal Muhammad as champion,
yeah,
Magomed Ankalaev as champion. Not to say that they're not big stars, but they're big
yeah,
stars in different parts of the world.
yeah.
And you have Aspinall in the UK, obviously, but he's an interim champion. Do you agree with that? Do you think that there is a problem with creating stars in the UFC right now?
I don't think it's a problem. I feel like, unfortunately, it is the fight business, but it's also an entertainment business, and I feel like a lot of these fighters don't understand that, or they choose not to understand it. Like you got to entertain people. It's show business,
Yeah,
and people need to watch you. You got to sometimes be a little controversial. It's like you got to entertain people. You got to give people a reason to watch you more than just your fighting. And that's why it's hard to build stars. I understand the UFC is a business, like, and it's well run. Like having experienced contenders in the UFC, like you understand why this is the creme de la creme,
right.
why they run so well. And it's like it's the same for Conor. That's why Conor still gets so much love. He's treated so good by the UFC because I think he literally changed the UFC, the trajectory of the business. How one man was able to do that is just because he was an entertainer.
Right.
And you got to bring the numbers up. That's how you're going to build a star. If you don't bring the numbers up, it's hard. Like it's a business at the end of the day. Like you can keep winning. Like these guys are great fighters. Don't get me wrong, but you need to bring. You got to give the company something to work with.
Yeah. No, and you're not wrong about that. But when you mentioned Connor, I don't know how much inspiration like you've taken for him. Are you? I haven't seen you on the microphone yet at like a big press conference. How's
Yeah,
your do you got a good trash talk game, or is that not your style?
we're gonna have to find out.
All
I
right,
don't mind a bit of back and forth, but like I think there's like sometimes it can be forced or sometimes it can be out of character.
sure,
So it
yeah,
just depends on the person. If the person's being chill with me, I ain't gotta go disrespect them and start talking about personal stuff. Like I say, just keep it between the both. But it's exciting, to have a bit of both. It's like with Austin. Austin was pretty chill.
yeah,
Like I saw him in the PI, he didn't really want to interact with me. He was walking past me, headphones in. Um, at the weigh-ins, he was trying to be a bit intimidating with me. I wish he was just a bit more friendly after the fight. But I can understand like what because of what happened, why he wasn't.
So what? He wasn't like he just wasn't
Yeah, I was
vibing
just
with
trying.
you.
I was just trying to talk to him and be like, "Oh, like you know, I hope you're all right. These things happen." But I can understand after like what you're feeling in the moment. I can understand why he doesn't want to interact with me.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Also, you're the young guy coming up. He's
yeah.
probably
I think that was it. I think he took fighting me as an insult. But hey,
it is what
it is what it is.
a tough game, man. It's a tough
Yeah,
game.
man.
Um,
Unforgiving sport.
Yep. Well, dude, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. So I guess like the
Thank you,
last
man.
question I have for you here is, you mentioned that you have 3 to 4 years before you feel like you become a star, but where do you see yourself in a year? Like what do you want to happen? What's the ideal scenario for Mario Pinto over the next 12 months?
I'm definitely going to be a recognized heavyweight across the world, and definitely be pushing the Portuguese flag and the UK
Right.
flag for everyone to see, but to showcase a different style of heavyweights. Again, bringing up the new generation and showcasing all forms of martial art, not just standing and banging.
Right.
So definitely for sure, yeah, man.
I love that. I see a bright future for you, man, and I'll
Thank
be
you.
rooting for you. And yeah, congratulations on the big win and best of luck.
Thank you, man. I appreciate your time and I appreciate again giving a platform for fighters to speak their voice always.
Absolutely. No problem with that. Mario Pinto, big win over Austen Lane at UFC Vegas 103. We'll be seeing more of you, and yeah, we'll see you around, man. Let's do this again, okay?
Thank you. Bing
All right,
bang bosh.
let's go.